Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today's day 17 of Acrylic April. We're going to be painting in acrylic step by step this really gorgeous golden retriever holding a bouquet of flowers. We're going to try to do this in a loose and expressive way. I'm going to explain every part of the process. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hey guys.
He tracks me with our cameras and makes sure that you can see the palette, that you can see the brush strokes, so you can see the techniques I'm using, so you can duplicate them at home. In the description below, if you check that, there's a link to our website. And on our website is a ton of extra free resources. There's a traceable if you're not a fan of drawing. If you'd like to learn how to draw, there's a step-by-step gridding video where I show you how to use the grid method to draw easily, even if you're a beginner. And there's a value study, which I do think is quite valuable. Lots of printable references, just a ton of stuff for you. The reason that we have all of that is because I understand as a beginner, the more resources that I can give you, the better chance you have of finding success. And I'm so loving seeing all your paintings, and I'm just ready to jump on into this one today.
Me too.
Are you ready? I'm going to turn around.
All right.
Oh, so you've got that new trick that really like keeps it together. So I have here my 8x8. It is graded. I have a ground on it. Again, that video is for free on the website and you can watch that, or you can just paint a soft green background and chalk it in, however you want to do it. Over here, John's zooming out so you can see this. This is new. I am putting this out here because I really, really want to nail the values. And this is the free method of kind of tuning in grayscale while you're painting with color. It's really cool. I'm going to use it to see if it helps me. I did pre-announce it just in case you wanted to have it there. It's not required for this video for you to be doing this at home, but it is going to help me make sure that I'm as tuned as I can be. And if you want to take that on, you just cut a piece of paper and paint a dark gray, a middle gray, and a very light gray. And you'll see as I'm painting how it gets used. I'm ready to get in. I got my references already. And over here I have my paint. Now, the palette is labeled, but let's just go over it a little bit. Cad yellow medium and vermilion. I have deep magenta, ultramarine blue. I have phthalo green, primary blue, burnt sienna, Naples yellow, the PY53 kind, Mars black, and titanium white. And so I called out a pigment code there. Colors have vanity names like blue, but they have pigment codes, which is the exact color they actually are. So that's why sometimes I'll give that pigment code. Now, if you don't have those exact colors, but you'd like to know what you could exchange them with and still get a good result, again, check out that website, because guess where that information is? All the exchanges which are explained are right there, so you can just be like, oh, I have one of these other colors and I'm good to go, because I don't want you to have to run out and buy something new. I think we should get started on the background, and our background is fairly light, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right into my little grayscale over here. This is a number 8 bright Cambridge. It's a bristle and synthetic filament, and I'm looking forward to doing this on my background. I've got my color chart as a pretty cool reference that I can use. And so the first part of my background that I'm going to get into is I'm going to take a little of my ultramarine over to my Naples yellow, as you do, and it gives me a bit of a gray. It's like a grayed green, and I'm going to add some white to it. Now I want to make sure that that's a nice light distant color so that when I'm doing the painting, it goes into the background. And how I do that is I'm going to put this in 3 places. And what you can see is it's going to stand out and be a little more blended in its correct spot. This gets real helpful when you get into hard to see colors, where you're like, man, I'm not really sure what color I should be using. You can see I'm just brushing this on loosely, coming across the top, just brushing this on, just a light grayed out color. You know, just a little bit of a tone to it, like it's a little blue, it's a little green, but it's so muted that it feels a little gray. Now, as I'm coming through here, I can add some of my phthalo green. See how bright that is?
Yeah.
That's too bright. So what I can add to that phthalo green to mute it is a little bit of the burnt sienna. So sometimes I'll do that to knock a color back a bit and see if I can take it somewhere. So let's just put this here. Oh, and I can always check this. Is this like it? Where is that at in relationship to its value? And I'd say it's a little bit closer to that middle gray. So that's just a quick way to check anything. If you're like, what's lighter, what's darker? Am I hitting what I need to hit?
That is an interesting tool.
Just kind of coming along here.
Now, the community would like to know,
Yes.
how are you feeling today? You're
So
looking...
much better today, guys. Like, I'm very blessed in that if I am having a day, as we all have a day, I can just come in and paint and I can work it out at my canvas, just as you have a right to be working it out at your canvas. So it's a pretty nice thing that I get to do. I'm going to just keep mixing into this sort of background color that I've got going.
If I may
Oh, that's even more steadily right there, but it's, ooh, so you can kind of see where its value is.
Yeah.
Come down.
I think the action of painting like this every day helps create that acknowledgement that it's a sacred practice that does actually help you.
I think it really does, and I've been reading everybody's art stories that they've been posting in the Facebook group. I add a lot more Naples yellow to that next row. Ooh! Cat! I'm going to come in and put a little yellow into this, as you can see, just loosely mixing it. Talking about this distance space, perhaps off. I'm going to grab a little of my magenta, which is always fun. These are little pops of color that could be off far away in this floral field, as you do. And you can see I'm just trying to make sure that I'm in my right value space as I'm coming up. Just painting very loosely. Yeah, I've loved just reading everybody's little stories.
Oh, I know. And
it's been really cool.
As a kind of interesting aside, I think that it's also a good way of training our loved ones to know that we need that sacred time.
That does seem to be also feedback that we're getting. That families are coming in and being super supportive of that space and that time for everyone. I think I want to put some blue up there. I'm seeing some blue, so I'm going to grab some of my ultramarine and I will tint it with my white. Make sure it's not too wet. You can always check those too. I'm going to just add some blue to a couple spots back here because I think it'll make these colors a little more cheerful. And we do want them to feel very spring and very cheerful, don't we? You can always come and get a little pop of pink into that. And look what that does. Always entertaining. And just because your reference doesn't give you a lot of a color doesn't mean that you can't, tune up your reference or improve it. I mean, that's sort of the privilege of being a painter, right?
Yeah.
Is you get to make something really, really your own. Now, I'm going to come through and I'm going to take a little of my cad yellow and a little of my primary blue, and you'll see this is just a much brighter green that you might have, and I can check this against there, and I'm expecting it to be about that value. You can see it's like obviously darker than my light, but not as dark as my dark. So that's kind of how you use that. You're like, oh, where does that at? And it kind of lets me know where something can be inside my painting. I'm painting a little bit into where I'm planning to put my flowers. And the reason for that is, I'm going to get a little more yellow in here. The reason I'm painting into that is I'm going to come back and I want it to be well layered. He's a very important painting to me. I'm going to get some more of my yellow.
Now, you've done several videos on blending.
Mm-hmm.
And so and right now in Acrylic April, we're doing a lot of these under a relatively compressed time because we're about the daily painting this month.
Right. Painting every day. But you can do these as one-offs.
Right. But if you'd like to know more about the blending techniques that Cinnamon's using, great thing to check our website and type in blending under the search and video.
Also type in Technique Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, that one was a great series.
Yeah, I'm going to redo that one. That was a Facebook series that you can view from our website. I'm just making up a little more of this pink to pop into here. So it's kind of blended into this little green-yellow space. Muted for sure, but present in the painting, right? But it was really fantastic. I'm probably going to reboot it, but you can watch it from the website, or if you can work the video tab on Facebook, you can watch it from over there. A lot of people find that video tab to be super problematic for them. They don't enjoy it as much. So I've got my blue here, and you can see that makes a nice deeper green. If you add more blue, it deepens the green. If you add more yellow, it lightens the green. So you can see here now it's closer to here, isn't it? So when it was yellow, it was more here, but with the blue, it's more down there. Just making sure that we've got that kind of represented. Not everywhere, but just coming along here and maybe coming behind him. This will also help him stand out in his background. Now, coming out his mouth, I do want to put in a basis of something. So I'm going to take my phthalo green and my burnt sienna and I mix them together. And I'm going to show you right here. See how that's really a dark gray? And obviously not either one of those. I know this is a weird thing I'm showing you, but I feel like it's going to be helpful to everybody as they're trying to learn how to catch their values. And it's going to be helpful to me, I feel, in catching my values.
It's definitely helpful.
This is my deep color that I'm going to be really relying on in my bouquet.
Your bouquet?
Yeah. That'll be where the stems are all sort of caught together, and you know, I'll begin to put them like coming out here as well, because you know,
this is where you gotta remember your smaller surfaces. You gotta remember your posture, not to, you know, because you like to rotate that canvas because you want your arm. See, I gotta make sure that Cinnamon has like a coach for her, you know, her athletic arm support, because I mean, like, she has to paint every day, so we got to make sure that she has good posture, that she doesn't get uncomfortable, right? These are important things
because that's what makes this sustainable.
And if you're at home and you paint in an uncomfortable position, you won't be able to keep painting.
So I'm going to take a little bit of my brown over here and a bunch of my yellow, as you do, or as I'm going to do. You can add a smidge of your black to that mix, I find. And this is going to start to become the beginning of the hair color that I'm going to be doing on my lab. So what you see me doing is trying to find some deep value. And from there, I will be lightening the value. So I'm pulling all the paint out of my brush using a towel. I'm going to come here and get a little of my yellow into that. Look at me work that through. That's a way sometimes to mix a color thoroughly into your, there we go. Now, take this over here, and you want to check its lightness, just to make sure that the color that you're talking about is the color that you mean to be talking about. The value, not the color, the value. Because that can be a really challenging thing, especially when you are working on a painting and you're trying to catch some very different subtleties. So I have that here. I'm going to put a little more yellow into my brush, and I'm going to grab a lot more white. If you did the girls, the two sisters running, you're going to find his fur is a lot easier to do. Just saying, I'm going to add a little bit of this lighter color right here over his eye. Let's come along the back of his head. I can always bring some of this down. Right there. So we're just trying to talk about these little spaces. I can come a little more yellow and a lot more white. You can see where you're at on that. So now we're lighter than the gray. So that gives us a good idea that our lightest tone probably will be good. And I'm just letting the brush kind of leave these little scratchy marks as you might want to. And I might press out the brush to get excess pigment out. Now, here's the base color, and I can come into this and get a nice, slightly darker version of that. Bring that down right here. Because coming down his face and behind the flowers, it's a little bit slightly in shadow, right? He'll be coming in very quickly, I think. And then his ear, I feel, has just a smidge. And I'm going to make a little orange over here because I feel like there's just a smidge of the orange to the ear mix. So when I get that on my brush, even though I'm doing the darker tone here, I can add a bit of that to there. And I want to check if it's a darker, dark enough shade, which I think it's more in this range, so it is. I'm going to make sure that his ear, coming forward, has that darker little aspect to it. And then that's going to come down, right, as they do, to right about there, a little bit of an ear. And then I can come right back into my lighter value. Putting that in, saying, oh, look at your little ear go. You have a little ear, my friend. And I like getting into those things. This is kind of a darker value, and so I can bring that little warmth up in there. Bring that in nice and loose. So you can see I'm not doing like super, super blended spaces. I'm just trying to catch those values around his face and head. If I want to get a little more yellow into that, I can pretty easily. Maybe lighten some of this right here. Just a smidge, but you still want it to be somewhat, deep. So where's our kind of darker value color is right there, and you can always work that in. The beginnings of that. I know I've got a little daisy there, but I'm going to definitely make sure that this is happening here. I like doing that. I like finding those little values.
Yeah.
To find my happy little dog. This is when I'm like super into painting, so like I would choose this to paint in my own personal time. Like doing my own personal art, I would absolutely choose that to paint. So I'm making some more of this. You got to watch with the student paints that you don't get too much water into them because they will over thin. And what I'm basically doing is I'm taking that little shadow kind of area and let's make sure that we show that there's a little bit right there. And I feel like there's some of it right here coming down, making sure the ears have this little separation. And then back into a light value. Just to come over the top of this little ear, even though we know there's going to be some of that right there. And then I feel like I see a little bit of a light value behind the eye there. And definitely another little light value right here. It's like trying to find those little moments in the painting. Are we kind of feeling it now that we're on day 17? Just painting those highlights right there.
This is one of those ones where I'm trying not to get in and interrupt you too much because I know how much content you have to we're at 20 minutes.
Oh wow, yeah. He might be one of our more involved ones simply because I'm really thinking about I'm not gonna languish. I'm gonna definitely stick with the program and make sure that what I paint is fresh, is loose, is expressive. But I just also at the same time want to make sure that I'm paying really close attention to what I'm painting, if that makes sense.
Now, while you're, I won't ask too many questions, but while you're going here, Anne was asking.
Hi, Anne.
Do you ever get frustrated with a painting and need to walk away from it?
And I've gotten so frustrated with a painting that I've thrown it in the trash.
That's true.
I have. And yelled at it the whole way out the door like it did something to me. That's something that'll make your neighbors notice you in the wrong kind of way. Just saying. If you want to see people pop their head out to see what's going on, yell at your artwork in the street. Yeah, everybody feels like that. Everybody goes through painting and they feel like that. And here's the worst one that happens to artists. I don't know if this has happened to you yet, Anne, but you'll do a painting that you hate. You're so mad at it, and then everybody else likes it. Everybody loves it. And they won't let you throw it out, and they won't let you get rid of it, and you're just stuck with it. And then somebody you know and love and are going to see a lot takes it and hangs it on their wall. So it's just constantly looking at you forever. That happens to artists. It's not my favorite. I'm going to take a little of my brown and my black together. Just a little bit of that. And I'm going to come into the eye a little. I think maybe it's a little lighter than what I have. I think I have this too dark, see? And I think it's more in the middle gray. So what I might do is wipe out my brush. Yeah. And I'll come back with just maybe the sienna and a little bit of yellow into it. You can always add that red to orange it up, and I'm going to come around the eye with that. So yeah, totally feel your feels, Anne. Feel them, I feel them, I feel them. I'm just coming up over here, and I'm just making sure that I'm catching that beautiful fur darkness that happens around an eye on our fur babies. We have a lot of dog lovers in our community. And it's nice to be able to do a piece that I know they're going to really enjoy. I love this like fantastic, like almost liver spot color. So I'm going to go ahead and get some magenta into this. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm taking the magenta because I feel like I'm somewhere in there. And see if we can't catch that nose. So maybe a bit of the lighter to the top. I got to find that liver, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. So it's really weird how you'll start to tune in what you've got and what it's going to be like. I'm going to just try to catch this part of the nose with that color as much as I can. And hopefully the nose won't get away from me because they sometimes can. I don't know if you guys ever have that experience where the noses get a little bit away from me, but my noses can get away from me. So I'm going to get a bit more white into the mix. Right? And this makes sort of a highlight if I can. And make sure I catch some of that. Maybe a little bit right there. Nose looks crazy right now. Don't worry, we're going to get it. I'll try to get it with this one brush because I'm trying to stay loose. You're welcome to use a detail brush. I'm going to get a little of my black and ultramarine blue and see if I can come in on the corner and maybe just tap it in. And I might have to switch to my round. But we'll see how it goes. And just look carefully at your reference. That's what you're trying to use as guidance. And I think this is weirdly a good beginning to this part of the mouth. So it's a little bit of that black and that blue. And then I can kind of take this here and come back towards that little nose shape.
This is a lot of purpley.
Isn't that nice?
Undertones to it.
Yeah, I love it. I do actually really, really love it. So I'm going to come into my main kind of fur color that I've got going here. And this will make sort of a little gray. I'm going to see if I can't come behind the nose and catch that well. Maybe a little bit right here. And then this definitely comes through here. And blend that into this little spot right there. So I'm starting to get it, but it's just not, the brush isn't really getting me there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I am going to switch to my round. Yes, is it frustrating to me? Yes. Because we all have goals, but this is the lesson. If it's working, cool. If it's not, accept it and make the changes that you've got to make so that your painting is what you need it to be. Right? Never let like a personal challenge like just completely derail what you're trying to do in the bit of this world. So I can get quite a bit darker. Just a little bit under here. It gets a little bit darker. What I do love is I'm going to catch a little white, just a smidge of it, and I'm going to apply his little teeps right there in his little mouths. They're like in the shadow, huh?
I like little dog teeth.
I do too. They're like crazy little teeth, and I love them. And dogs are so like, these are my teeth. I don't know what to do about it. It's just my teeth. So back into my nose color, right, that I'm trying to get into. And I'm going to go ahead and shape that out a little bit better. How I would have wanted that to be a little more shaped. And that just happens. Sometimes, my brush is too fluffy, or what I'm doing isn't going to work for what I'm trying to get it to do. And it's okay. I will just make those changes as I need to. And you can see his nose is starting to happen now. Where it's like, okay, I'll be a nose. I'm going to make a little bit of a shadow of this color. Because under here, it's a little bit more in shadow.
Yeah.
It is that color. Maybe a little bit on this side. Just getting those little shapes going. And then definitely that's happening in there. And I'm going to add some of this to the inside of his little space. You can absolutely do that. I'm getting more blue. He's going to be my favorite. So you guys have been kidnapped into a personal mission of mine. If you're wondering what's happened, you're like, where are we going? I don't know. So just getting some of this kind of interesting blue-gray color with those two. There we go. So just making sure the things that are super important to me are showing up here. From there, a little highlight. How's that looking? All right, so we've got a little bit of a little nosy thing going. And then underneath on there, he's got this little lip. Again, it's sort of the same thing. So let's magenta, get that little lip nose color going again. Quite dark. Probably even grayer than that. So I can get it right into the purple. So I'm bringing that blue into it. So I'm not just matching, the values. I'm also coming in here and making an effort to match some of the other parts of what's afoot. A little more blue, just to the inside of that. And then, now I might come back to this little fellow now that I'm sort of through that, and I've got this interesting little blue-gray color that I'm footing.
Mm-hmm.
Come underneath here. Because he's got that sort of little chin going.
Little dog chin.
He's a little dog chin. I'm going to, every once in a while, pick up this brush and do things to get a result.
I love when the little dog chin hairs go gray. They start showing their little dog age.
Yeah, me too.
They get a little salt and pepper in there.
I'm adding just a little bit of a highlight to pull some of these things out. And then just a little bit along here just to talk about this part of his little muzzle.
All right, Sherpa.
He's a little crazy right now. He's all chin. The reason this is the focus of the painting,
He's all
I think I'm going to go over my time limit, guys.
That's okay.
I'm just letting you know. I think I am.
It happens.
It's gonna today.
It's gonna occur.
It's gonna today. And that's okay. So I'm getting my kind of blue-brown thing going again and get some black in there for that base color of that coat. Let's get some white. There we go, that crazy coat color. And you can always, add yellow. And ask yourself sometimes, like, does it need more red? Does it need more blue? Does it need more yellow when you're trying to find a color? So underneath this chin, I'm going to come back and actually get some more light going on the chin. There's a bit of a sort of darker value coming down that we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to brush a lot of this here because to get this fur, it's going to require some shading as we go. Just promise you that right now. Going to require a little bit of shading. And so setting that up when we know we're going to be dealing with that is going to help us a lot. And I'm going to come into my plan, even though it's going to come back over the top of this. And that's going to happen as I come out here to this fur here. It can lighten up out here a bit. And you can see I am lightening it a bit. And then right here. I get asked a lot, like a lot, how to paint animals in these color ranges. And I think it's because it's hard to find these weird little midtones. And if you're having trouble finding the value, check it here and you can be like, oh no, I need shockingly even more white to be like right here, to be on value.
To be on value.
Yeah. To be on value, I'm going to need to be right there. And I'm going to come over and add some of that on value over here because I know it's over here. And then as I come down, it's going to definitely get, a little more shaded. This fur. And you can see this brush stroke is a bit loose. There will be not as loose brush strokes coming up, but right now it's all about catching the value that I'm trying to talk about. You see, I'm just adding bits of that black in there just to deepen that. But it's still pretty light. See, all the values are still pretty light. So you're like, oh, I want to move down into here. So, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make sure that moves down into here. And we've got that underneath here. Now, to make him look less like a crazy dog, I've got to come finish up his little face. Huh?
I think my little... There he goes. Just making sure I can... when you started to add those highlights, it really... There it goes.
Starts to become a dog.
I think maybe I also bumped the camera and iris got real bright for a second. I was like, ooh. So I had to fix that. Sorry about that.
I'm going to get some of his little chin color.
Okay.
And I'm going to come right here. Come right underneath. Where I know he's going to have this little bit of fur. And I'm just going to lightly dry brush it. And then also, you've got to remember that he's got this little bit here. So that's happening. And we need to find a way to fill that out. And to get through that transition, I'm going to make some middle, see this sort of middle color I'm making? Just talk about that his little jowls are going to come out a bit. Now also, I'm going to pull a little of his fur forward, a little yellow, and pull a little of his fur forward. Just right here. So some I got to keep in shadow, but some of it I'm going to have to pull forward. Grabbing that darker color over here. Maybe a little more blue into it. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
I gotta say, I really love.
You're loving the teeth?
Everyone's loving the teeth.
Like
They're really good.
I do. I like the teeth too. Now I'm going to grab my round brush again. And I'm going to come get a little of my black and blue, which is what I've been making my kind of deeper color in. And I'm going to make sure that right here, you know, we've got a little bit of a talk about, you can always come and put some fur back, but I think it's going to be important even though he's going to have a lot of stuff in front of that side of the mouth. These little shadows can make a big deal. Grabbing some just dark color and just making sure that that's handled. Hold that up too much, so now he's got crazy lips. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure out where is this going to go and how does it got to go. So if that's the case, then come and pull that back down. I'm going to just make sure that I, a little of that here. The nose, that dark area of the nose kind of comes from the outer corners down. And so everything else you can move in on it. And I think that that's probably going to be really good. Come back in. See if I can catch that. And I think I've got that there. So I still have the eyes. I still have some stuff to do, but I want to kind of get some of this fur in. So what I've got down here is the fur is a little grayer than everything else. So I might actually add that little bit of kind of ultramarine blue to that. And I'll see if I can get this with this brush, but I'm going to talk about that texture I'm seeing. And often in fur, and I have a lot of videos about fur, guys. I do. Often in fur, and then maybe there could be a little bit coming forward. Give some little fur bits coming forward. It's really just about the little shadow that you can see underneath and some directionality. So like on this fur here, I got this coming forward. Just trying to give my little fur some textures. And maybe I'll roll this back out here.
That's one of the things that I was waiting. Your brush direction do a lot to indicate that this is fur or feathers, or to sort of fill in that visual gap that our brain has, huh?
Yeah. And as it comes out, it can get looser, but I think having just a little bit of that fur in there, in that way, let's get a little more into our yellow as we move out, right? I think having a little bit of fur in there in that way can help some of what we're feeling or seeing about Mr. Fluffy Face.
And those just layers of color and and texture are what make it look fluffy, huh?
I feel so. I think so. I think that it's about finding your loose space, but it's also about making sure that you've got what you need to in it to get the results that you want. So I'm getting that darker color again. And I come here and just make sure that that's, yeah, it is now.
Yeah.
There we go. So we're getting there with him. We're getting there. I feel like the ear is maybe missing something a little over here. So maybe get a little bit of this. And I'm just going to come out here and, because I can always put my stems back, but I'm just not feeling my ear. There we go. Now I'm feeling my ear a little bit more. And I really like his little fur. So as we're going, you can make an even lighter mark. So you can see I'm making even lighter than what I've had so far. And you can pick some of that up and exaggerate that again as well. I'm feeling that. I feel like he feels fluffy.
Yeah.
How y'all feeling about his fluffs?
Well, I have to tell you, uh, there are folks all over the world that are just at a loss of words for how cool this is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me share this monthly journey with you guys. It's been a seriously deep and wonderful pleasure.
Except I think that when I translated it to another language, it translated your first name into the actual language translation of, like, so cinnamon is.
Yeah, it does that a lot. It doesn't
That's-
actually think that anyone named anybody Cinnamon ever.
That's your. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder.
I'm going to put my vision enhancers on so I can see what I'm doing.
All right. So you can
Yeah.
see what you're seeing with the dog's eyes.
Because sometimes I find that even painting loose, I still need to be able to see. It's still important that I see what I got going on. And I'm going to try to keep it loose and not lean into being so detail oriented that I lose out on what I'm trying to do. But also, I've got to make sure that I already like his eyes so far. Like once his eyes came in, I'm like, oh, this is my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to get a very light color on my round brush. I might even get a little yellow into it just to have it stand out a bit. And I'm going to come like right here. And I'm going to make sure I've got another one right there. I don't know if that's going to be good, but I just really like those lashes that he's got. I don't want to lose those. I want to show that bit of dogness to his world. Now I'm going to get some black paint. And I can come back with this very dark value. Trim up those lashes, trim to the outside edges of his little eyes. Just to exaggerate some of that a bit. As you might want to do, And then we're going to do some crazy cool stuff. We're going to take a little of our blue. And, it's okay if it gets a little magenta into it. And quite a lot of white. Let's come to the top of the eye here. On the inside, don't take out all your dark. I'm going to add that little reflection of the sky above his eye. What we're doing. We're just talking about the sky above his eye. Oh, he's starting to come together. And I'm going to grab some of my just brown. This might be too big of a transition, but I'm hoping I can get away with it. I'm going to come in here and add a little touch of that to what's happening. To his little eyes.
Oh, you always do such cool things with eyes.
I love eyes. I love eyes. Yay, yay, yay. I love eyes. Do, 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 do.
What are you doing there?
I'm just adding some little highlights to catch a few little things that they're just a little bit.
Those eyes are just, I'm zooming in so people can see what constructs them. But that's just awesome.
Isn't that just wonderful? I think that's sort of wonderful. I think he's sort of wonderful. I'm losing my...
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Shh, shh, shh.
Okay.
Luckily, it gets you. As long as you're relatively close to it, it's like,
Is it good back on?
Looks like it.
Okay. So I'm going to load back up just a little bit. And I'm going to come here and make sure I go over that deep shadow that I made with just a little bit of fur. I come there with a little bit of fur because we just want that to look not perfectly edged. Let's start to deal with flowers. So the first thing is we are going to paint these, but we're not going to paint these like super high realistic. That's not our goal. I'm going to make sure this is dark enough for what we're going to be doing. And the reason I want a nice dark value is that that will allow it to build up easily. And I certainly want it to build up easily. So I'm going to try to capture the impression of this bouquet. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to dry this.
Yeah, is it
and
okay?
I'll be right back because we'll be wrapping
right.
up in just a few minutes.
All right. I mean, she's got to dry it, right? So we got to hang out. So I'm going to say thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Thank you for everyone all over the world who is taking part in Acrylic April and coming by and saying hello and seeing us. And oh my gosh, I again love seeing all you guys. Thank you for coming and being part of this.
It is actually super awesome you guys are here.
I will gush for endless amounts of time. So I'm going to just teach.
I'm going to get into some very bright colors, right? Because some of these are pretty bright, and they come up and they're going to take up some range. We're not going to paint every little leaf, or I'm not. You may do so if you'd like. I just want to capture some of the shape of what I'm seeing, some of the brightness, like if they're coming down here, capture like maybe a little value that you could be having. Add some highlights to that. Another run of highlight. So quite bright. Still seeing the depth of it down low. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to get a lot more yellow into this mix of green. Maybe even a smidge of the white. You guys can see that. And add some of that here, where I might have some in this bouquet.
You're really close, huh?
I am. I'm going to put him over there. Oh, I'm really liking him.
Oh, yeah, me too.
So, yeah, for me, he was like really what I wanted to paint. This whole journey is really about this dog. And I'm going to add some of this green in here. So what I'm basically doing is I'm just trying to show some different types of greens that we might be seeing in our fabulous bouquet. And they should be different and maybe stand out a bit from the background greens, right? And that's what we're doing, is we're helping them stand out from those backgrounds.
And you were able to do that because of the value study that you did and the tools that you used, say, right there, next to us.
Right there. Now,
those tools.
I'm going to change my water because my water is super dirty. You can see how dirty it is. So that's not going to be fun to get bright colors from. But I want some bright colors. Don't you want some bright colors? So now I may come and layer back. I'm going to take a little of my white and maybe some of my ultramarine blue. I'm going to make sort of this little off-white. And now here I'm going to tap out some marks. These are the little flowers at the edge of the bouquet. Really like them. I thought that they were important to the composition. So I will continue to include them in it. There is also, let's see if I can do it with this brush. A bit of a daisy here. And I'll catch that as soon as, I'll get the center in there. But right now I'm just trying to get a little of the feeling of it. I've added some of the yellow to my white, and I'm going to come here and make sure that some of these little daisy petals kind of pop. That has some dimensionality. Back into some of my whites. And we're going to just make sure that some of those little white little taps, aren't they? They're just little bits of things are happening here and there. Maybe back into that blue. and talking a bit about this flower that's here. I'll have to grab a little yellow right on the brush, just some yellow. And it's okay if it has a little brown in it, because it's got to be a little bit darker. And we're going to come right here just for a second. I'm going to really rinse out. And a little yellow, this time with a little bit of my green. Getting that there. Now the first part of some of my yellow flowers, I'm going to come and make a little kind of stick structure. This is the trick of painting expressionist flowers. Look at the shape of the flower, but don't get lost in the petals. And I know that's a big sentence right there. Look at the shape of the flower, but don't get lost in the petals. But you really have to when you're painting flowers, especially if you're doing so expressively, because it's so easy. Add a little yellow to that, just a touch. And then maybe a little, I got some little white on this and come right there and add a little brightness to that flower. Now, one fun thing is I can come back with just my Naples, because it's such a delicious yellow, and create a little dynamo, right? A little space where these little yellow flowers absolutely have some context. I like his little fast, expressive little bouquet. He's really what I'm trying to get when I'm trying to get a loose daily painting. He's what I'm going for. Now the next group of flowers I'm going to do are my magenta and my vermilion flowers. So they're magenta and vermilion, right? And you'll have a couple ranges. You may want to take a little of your ultramarine and start getting some of the deep values of the pink so that we can pop it with some other values of the pink. So first I'll come through with some of this, kind of where I see that there's some depth. And I will pop where I feel like we've got to pop some of those colors. Now, wipe off, don't get your brush wet again, because again, if you are painting a lower grade paint, too much water can really mess you up. I'm coming back with a more saturated and brighter version of that magenta because I want it to really, really pop out like it does in that picture. Now I can get a little smidge of white, and that will also help get some of these to seem a slightly brighter pink. Can you see how just a little white can do that? Down below, I'm back into my white and my yellow. Take out a little yellow. And you can come and catch the front of that daisy. I know, shocking. You can even put a few more of these colors here and there, as you might want to.
This comes together so fast.
It does, and I really like it. It's about to get real pretty, 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 pretty. I still got the daisy to contend with, but I'm going to hit it last because we've got to hit this bright pink. Who else really loved the bright pink?
I do.
All right, so that's going to be a little of the yellow in my magenta. Still to the magenta. Now I'm going to grab some of my white to reveal the pink itself. Where you have that pink, go ahead and just pop that pink. Because he loves whoever he's bringing those flowers to. Grab a little yellow, grab a little white. I'll get a little white. You're going to get a little white. We're getting pretty close. We've got some stuff afoot. Back into his little petals on his forward-facing daisy, I'm going to grab some white and kind of make the daisy. I may turn the canvas to get a little handle on it. So as John has pointed out, I am not constantly turning my body. This is layer 1, so it's our first layer, and we'll be coming back with, you know, a brighter white and the yellow center. Now, I'm going to get my green and get into a lot of my yellow. Grab a little white. I'm going to make sure that I pop out a few of those bright greens here and there so I can see them. Just a few, because you got to see it. So it has a little structure in there. So that the top of this bouquet isn't just one thing or another thing. And remember, you can always come through and you can be like, oh, this needs a little more. Yeah, I feel like it needed a little more red. Are you seeing how that's helping?
Yeah, I like how the red pops.
Yeah, it's just the pure red. And I'm just using what's underneath it to help it pop. So that those little pops of red really feel special. And they are special. Because he carried this all the way with him, right?
Yeah.
Rinsing out and drying off that brush. You see me do that all the time. Now I may, for this forward flower, get into my round brush again. And I'm going to grab some of my yellow and start with some of my red, my vermilion.
Get some detail on it.
Yeah, I'm just going to get some little orange going so I can maybe think about this one. Not so much more that it stands out, but just a little more focused. And you can even kind of shape some of that where you need to. While that's having a little bit of a dry, I'm going to grab what white I have left that's still white.
Ooh, got a little impasto. That's nice.
Yeah, it should help and
add some painterly
little feel to it, right? It has this daisy has this little sort of crazy, almost desperate little feel. And so that's really helpful. I'm rinsing off. Interestingly enough, I can use green around that little daisy. Got some of our orange. Because we're like, sometimes I like, I'm like, I get to the end of a painting and I'm like, oh man, I just want to not have to put out a little more paint. I'm getting just pure yellow right there. So I feel like, yeah, he's one of our more detailed ones. I think he was one that people disbelieved we could do. Like, yeah, I think I got a lot of disbelief feedback on him.
Yeah.
And now you can.
You can do this.
You can do this. I'm going to get some of my phthalo blue and white. Make a signature color.
Ooh, a signature color.
Well, I just want to do a signature, but my paint's a little dry, so I've got to really thin it and use it on the tip of my brush there. And I'll sign it in this blue down here.
That's really nice.
Yeah, think about when you're signing your painting, how you're doing it, and how that signature impacts the painting because you work really hard to do the painting. There's no point in being ridiculous with your signature. It's just undermines it. Happens though. Don't worry if you've ever been. Everybody goes through that stage. It's just good to have a signature that's congruent to the piece and doesn't pull yourself, your collectors, your viewers' eyes out. Let's take him all in. I'm one,
All
two,
right.
three. I'm gonna turn around. You ready?
Yep.
Oh.
That turned out really nice.
Oh, I think they could see him full screen if we have a way to do that too. Just him. Just him, because he's so.
Not that way.
Not that way.
That's the fast camera motion. There we go. There we go. Yeah.
So he looks pretty good. There's some weirdness in the nose, but overall, I feel like
No,
I'm
I like
super
his
happy.
nose. He has that mid sniff nose.
Mid-sniff nose. And that's what's fun about this is you capture the essence of a dog. You capture their spirit, the way a moment feels. When you're painting loose, that's really the difference. When you're painting tight, you're capturing things as like trapped in time, right? And every element of it is really stagnant. You're just getting it, and that's wonderful, right? Like those high dimension paintings that are just so like bigger than life. But when you're painting loose, you're capturing the light and the color and the feeling, so they should feel almost like a light memory in your head. And it's just about capturing what's important in the piece, but not every element, right? I'm super proud of him.
Now,
I can't wait for tomorrow. Is
what
going
is
to be such a
tomorrow?
gorgeous day. I think it's the garden. I think it's the garden.
Let's say
15th is
today's
the
the 17th. Tomorrow is the 18th. But I don't know what image that is. It's the garden.
I think it's the garden.
That's right, the garden.
It's going to be a beautiful pathway with a lovely loose garden, and actually probably very relaxed to do because we're going to go through and be very expressionistic with it.
Oh.
I hope you love your dog holding the bouquet. I know many of you are doing this for just a deep place in your heart. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.